My name is Bill Atkinson. I am editor-at-large of Citybiz and president of Atkinson Strategic Communications. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce Tony Gruebl, president of Think, a Baltimore-based technology and operations advisory firm, and Joe Poling, Think's director of client solutions. Welcome, gentlemen. Good to see you.
Great to see you.
I have to say right off the top that I love this company. Tons of momentum, even in a pandemic. You guys are growing. You made an acquisition. Tell us about, and not only that, you got a book coming out, Tony, The Red Pill Executive. Now that's available by ebook and on Amazon, Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble, all the different outlets have the book. That's correct.
Okay, great. Paperback, when does that come out?
Paperback comes out mid next month.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Think. How you got into it, why you started it, when you started it.
So 16 years ago, I was an operating executive, a COO of a small company. I knew that there was a need for the kind of control that I brought to their projects. And prior to that, I was a vice president of a software company. And so, that control of projects, control of programs, that was my thing. And so when I started Think, I knew that I had an asset there, and I began to cultivate and develop it. Over the years, it has grown and morphed and developed and turned into our first book, Bare Knuckle Project Management, which was really a treatise about how to jettison all the things that don't work in project management and just do the things that do in order to be effective in projects. We published that in 2014, and that really set Think on a upward growth trajectory for many years. We landed a great implementation, a post-merger integration at Bloomberg BNA along the way. Became their in-house PMO for a number of years. In addition to adding a lot of different clients. And have really grown into what we are today. It's been quite a fascinating journey, all built one brick at a time, one client, one experience, one outcome, one value proposition at a time over that 16 years. So, sometimes, Bill, I hear about these overnight success companies. We are not an overnight success company. We're a company built on hard knocks. We run into brick walls, we learn, and we run into brick walls again until we can get through brick walls. And so today we're sort of this bare-knuckled program management centered core company that has an executive advisory group on top of it. We do technology and operations executive advisory, specifically focused to mid-market executives who need the kind of support that we provide, and we have a great operating team underneath of that enables those transformations, those technology implementations to actually take place within our client sites. So I'm really proud of this company, and I'm proud of guys like Joe Poling who joined us a while ago to take on our biggest client and probably our toughest client. And Joe really is setting a whole new level of operating performance for Think. So I'm glad to have Joe here as well.
All right, Joe, give us a little bit about your history. When did you join the company, and what were you doing before that?
So I started my career in the tech boom in the 90s. I hooked up with a gentleman who was doing some technology work in the Baltimore area, and we grew out a consulting firm there. It was really based around support and services. Built that successfully, sold it, moved into another business that focused on the eye industry and really the back end of compliance and regulation, and ended up turning that company into another successful sale. Entrepreneurship it's in me. It's been in me since a young man, and I've been consulting for a few years. About a year and a half ago, I started talking to some of the folks at Think and Tony, And right away, we knew it was the right fit. And I've been with Think for about a year now, working on their largest client. And when we talk about transformation in 2020, we're in it. And there's no going back. There's no going back now. If there's any chance that this was going to be a short cycle, that's gone now. So we've been focusing on transformation in the industry. It's not only business transformation, it's disruption, it's technology, people, and process.
When I met Joe initially, Joe was focused on transformation and integration, merger integration at Hopkins. And I knew that would be a big asset for the kinds of work that we're involved in our largest customers. So it was really a perfect fit for us. And Joe is very entrepreneurial, as you mentioned. And that entrepreneurism is a quality that it's a thread that runs through many of our consultants. They like new challenges. They don't like the same thing twice in a different day. They believe that they can succeed at every project, every program they take on. They're somewhat invincible until they're not invincible, and we coach them up and get them to feel invincible. And that's the perfect combination of operations consultant we like to see and think. Junior executives who are ready to take on the world, that want a different experience at every different client that we have. It's quite an adventure so far, do you think?
So far.
So you mentioned Joe's working with your largest client. Can you talk about that? What kind of work you're doing? Can you name the client and just give us some kind of visibility on what Think does when it gets into the guts of a company?
This particular client is in the broadcast industry, and the focus for us is to bring in support for a new innovation program that they have. It's a multi-billion-dollar acquisition. There are multifacets to that, not only technology and technical services agreements, but also uniting the technology, culture, and process between an existing conglomerate and a new company. These projects are short-term and long-term. They range from short-term cost efficiencies type of initiatives, small dollars and cents, but a lot of process, all the way up into the hundreds of millions of dollars, and technology changes, culture changes, and complete reorganizations.
Yeah, the reason we were engaged by that company initially was to bring a new level of maturity to their operating model, to how they execute integrations and programs and projects. And many companies grow without framework and structure, and so Think is really good about that. We have great framework, great structure, and mix that with a little bit of science and a sense of corporate culture deep in the corporate organization, and it really makes for a great recipe of success. And Joe has a whole team of operators there that manage this very large, very high impact group of programs for that client.
Mm-hmm. Can you break those down? Can you explain the various areas where Think has expertise?
This is an interesting internal transformation that we're going through, right? So Think is composed of a government services group, an executive advisory group, an operations consulting group, and a strategic hiring group. And those groups work together to serve a broader range of needs in our clients. So, and I'll tell you about the transformation in just a second. And this is how Joe and I really have started to orchestrate and architect our future growth. So, executive advisory leads the way. Tech ops executive advisory, led by mid-market former executives like John Camp, who was the former CIO of Bloomberg BNA. He was actually our boss when we did his post-merger integration a number of years ago, and has since joined the company full-time. He does a lot of leading those executive advisory engagements for our clients. Once he's visioned out how a client transformation should be undertaken, he calls to our operations consulting team. They'll come and stand up a PMO. They'll move an organization from waterfall to agility. They'll put program managers in place temporarily who are consultant quality, project managers, business analysts. And when that client is ready to graduate off of the kind of services that our consulting team provides, we have a strategic hiring team that backfills those positions very specifically for that culture and for the client that we've come to know over 6 months or a year or 2 years. And those pieces really fold together very nicely. The transformation that Joe and I started to architect about 8 months ago was really solidly integrating all of those offerings to a particular kind of customer that we believe really needs what we offer. You want to talk a little bit about that? Because
Sure.
A lot of this was your brainchild.
Sure. So we were focused on the acceleration and growth of Think and what industry and how do we take our talent and the conglomerate of services that we provide and aim them, right? We needed a direction. We needed a change. And we looked at the PE and VC market, and it seemed like a really natural fit. These are companies that value ROI. They understand value proposition, and they understand the change and the transformation that has to take place to take an idea to a successful business, right? To launch, to market. And we've utilized our internal teams to build out a path that we think is going to take Think into the future, leveraging what we do best into a market that needs disruption, into a market that needs change, into a market that needs support.
It's not like we haven't worked with PE companies in the past. Actually, a lot of our clients are part of PE portfolios. So it's been sort of a natural progression to be able to go to the PE managers and say, hey, look, these are the kind of broad services we offer for you. We offer to your venture organizations or your PE fund organizations. How about if we do that as sort of a shared service for all of your portfolio organizations? And that has started to get some traction. What Joe and I wanted to do was enlist the support of some PE managers or retired managers that could begin to allow us to test that hypothesis in the market. And I think that as this story has sort of unfolded, you see that test is going to work.
Joe, you talked about disruption. What in this market, what in your space needs disrupting? Or what, explain that. What do you mean by disruption in this consulting world?
There needs to be a change. Consultants and management consulting can be viewed as cost, right? It can also be viewed as a value add. And there can be some consistency in the experience to help people grow. One thing about transformation is you need to be intentional, right? You need experience. You need to set the North Star. You can't go it alone. You need people that have done this before. And when you talk about PE and VC companies that are trying to build portfolios, there's inconsistency across that technology platform, across the operations platform, right? They focus on finance, but they need help in the technology and business transformation sector. And I think coming in, forcing businesses to look at what they do differently, forcing people to make those changes. We have current clients with buildings that had 400 and 500 people showing up at a parking lot every day that are no longer there. Those buildings are empty. How do you do business in today's market? How do you make those changes stick? It's not about writing a solid standard operating procedure. It's not about some training on the web. It's about understanding your culture, understanding your people, and making sure that the company's maturity can match the company's direction. Because even with the best planning involved, if you don't follow your leadership and the people don't buy into it, you're not going to make changes.
All right, Think has got a lot of momentum. You just did the deal with Ventru, and we'll talk about that later. But how do you keep this momentum going?
Well, I think that the way we kept it going is to pursue acquisition as well as organic development. So internally, we're always looking to become better consultants, to have our customers share their experience even more broadly, because that's typically how we grow. And we've had some great growth, 70% growth last year, 50% growth this year. It's just been amazing. But in order to continue that growth, I think acquisition is something that we've thought about in the past and just recently had the opportunity to do. And my sense is just since the acquisition, since the closing of that, my finger to the wind poll of our employees is our intensity, our velocity, the things that we're working on, they just were shot out of a gun, out of a cannon once this acquisition took place. So, I'm just a kid from Baltimore. If that's what it takes, I'll do more. It's okay. And we'll also grow organically.
Okay. You're so humble, Tony. Tony and Joe, great to spend some time with you. Thank you very much for being here. And we look forward to more great headlines from Think.
I hope there's more to come.
Our pleasure, Bill.